Welcome to the new episode of Evoplay Podcast. And today I'm excited to introduce you our guest, one of the most well-known experts in our industry, Martin Collins, Chief Business Development Officer at SoftBet. Martin is a professional with more than 2 decades of experience in digital markets. He's known for staying ahead of trends with track record of empowering organizations to drive revenue and growth. And today we're going to know Martin a bit better, both from a person and a successful leader perspective. So Martin, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Ihor. I think you're bigging me up a little bit. I'm not legendary status for sure. There's many people ahead of me with that, but thank you.
Come on, if you will ask someone who will not know Martin Collins in this industry, I will put the bottle on this table.
Well, it helps I was a recruiter for many years, so that's probably why most people know me. So
I see.
Thanks again.
You're welcome. Let's talk about your experience first of all, because I guess everyone knows you as a professional and everyone knows you as a leader in the companies, but I would like people know you more as a person, as the man, how you see yourself, what were your experience, and how did you get to the point where you're right now?
Okay, well, if we go back to the very start, I come from fairly humble beginnings. I come from a small village in Scotland with 5,000 people, and that's probably why I've been in Malta 16 years now, and that's probably why I like it here, because it's very much like a small village in Scotland, and it kind of makes me feel at home. Many people that I know have come and gone from Malta over the years, and they say it gets claustrophobic, but actually I feel really at home here. I find life really easy. I'm not here much. I travel quite a bit, as you know, but I really find it homely here and something that I can associate myself with. So I suppose I've taken my humble beginnings and I'm trying to sort of replicate that here in Malta. I started as a recruiter, and initially when I started recruitment, it was within the construction industry in London. And you know what? I loved the job, but I hated the industry. I absolutely hated the industry. It was something that I didn't associate with whatsoever. You could say you're building all these amazing architectural monsters in London, but the fact of the matter was I wasn't interested in it. So I took a step back and I realised that I liked the job, but I wanted to work in an industry that resonated with me, and it was something I was really interested in. And sport and gambling was something that always is, again, growing up in Scotland, it's fairly normal. I told you 5,000 people in my village, but there was 4 bookmakers. So that kind of tells you a little bit about the culture, right?
Sure.
So I managed to get introduced to a guy called David Copeland, who's the founder of Betting Jobs. I think I was employee number 3 or 4 there at the time. And everything sort of went from there. So that was end of 2005. And quickly, at that time, there was only 2 recruitment companies in the industry. It was Betting Jobs and Pantasia. It was pre-UEGA, so US was still operating, albeit only for about 9 months until September 2006. But the industry quickly clicked with me, the people within it, what I was discussing on a daily basis. So I suppose if anybody's thinking about their career, the one piece of advice I would give is do something that you're interested in and that excites you. Every day I still come into work and I look at the industry and I'm excited by it. And in 20 years, there's been a lot of change. There was no regulation when I started. And now, obviously, regulation is a fairly common subject in almost every jurisdiction in the world. Everybody's looking at it if they don't already have it implemented. So make sure that you come into an industry or a company or a product or something that really gets you excited. If you do that, then no day's a work day. It's coming in and doing something that you actually enjoy. In terms of the journey from Betting Jobs, I then took a step to the side and set up my own business, albeit helped along the way with David Copeland, the founder of Betting Jobs. So we remained together, but we created a new business together, Red Executive, and we operated for 10 years. We bootstrapped it. At one point, I think we were 25 people. And that's, I would say that, you know what, everybody turns around and says, wow, you deal with a lot of pressure. You know, we're working with big organizations with big budgets, with lots of revenue, with lots of costs. but there's nothing worse than having to find salaries for 20, 25 people every month. Every time somebody says that to me, or if you're sat there and you're feeling, wow, you feel a little bit negative about things, I just think about that and I go, there's nothing like that. Having to beg, borrow and steal from people in order to be able to get cash in order to pay your staff. So that's the most pressure I've ever felt. And anytime I'm feeling like that, I just think back to that and it makes me feel a little bit better about the situation that I'm in. So yeah, that's a very important sort of learning curve for me over that 10-year period. And you know yourself, businesses, particularly recruitment businesses, tend to go in cycles. So for 6 months you might be flying, you might be making a lot of money, and then it dips a little bit, and then you have to restart again. So yeah, it's the learning curve from that business and understanding that recurring revenue was very, very important. Any recruitment owner out there who is doing contingency business only, I would urge you to start getting recurring revenue into your organisation. Do a contract book. Do something so you have money coming in every month, at least to cover your wages. And you build a much better business and be in a much more comfortable space.
No, I mean, it's mostly not only about recruiting companies, it's about all of the companies, right?
Absolutely. In recruitment in particular, there's a tendency not to build that recurring revenue. So yeah. From there, I went to Gaming Innovation Group. So the C-level at Gig, they'd been a customer of mine, and a couple of the guys were good friends, actually. So I went over there. Quickly, the business changed drastically because we had a bond that had to be paid, and therefore we had to sell an asset, which we decided upon the B2C business. We sold that to Betson. And quickly, the platform and the media business were the main revenue streams within the organisation. And I gravitated certainly towards the platform business. I was more comfortable in that area, and I think we did relatively well given the situation over that period of time. I was there for 5 years. We did all the sales. We started to bring in tier 1 customers. We diversified the platform offering. We bought Sport & Co. I mean, there was lots of milestones over that period, and I think I remember that there was, 7 or 8 quarters in a row where we achieved growth. So I think we did a really good job there.
Sounds like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a team effort. I think that's the most important thing. I think the one thing that I took from Gig was the fact that you can't do everything by yourself. That you need people around you in order to be able to do what they do well, and you need to be able to do what you do well, and you need to come together and knit it together. If you don't manage that, then you'll never achieve your full potential. So yeah, I think we did pretty well. The business has changed there a lot since I left. I can't really comment about that, but in that period of time, the goals that we had, we certainly managed to achieve. And then a year ago, I managed to come to SoftAbit. So SoftAbit is a really interesting and growing business. It's not publicly listed, so therefore the dynamic is very different, and certainly an opportunity-led business, and I think that's what really attracted me to come here. And you know what? I thought it was an opportunity-led business, but it's an opportunity-led business on steroids. There's new things every day for all of us to become involved with. It's fantastic. It really is. You'll never get as much exposure and responsibility and accountability and everything that comes with that. I can't imagine there's too many businesses that operate like we do. But yeah, it's been a fantastic first year. Again, I think we've achieved our goals. There's been challenges over that period of time. There's a lot, as I said, there's regulation. Regulation's never easy. We're either in or going to be in 12 or 13 regulated markets. And with that comes challenges. The business has, in the past, like anybody, was .com, and you need to learn how to operate in every business individually. So if you go into Romania, for example, there's different things in the Romanian market that are required that might be required in any other market, and you need to get to know them. You need to analyze the competition and see what they're doing. Every market is different, and your platform might react differently to other platforms that are already on the market. So, for example, I know that in terms of conversion from NRC to FTD, I know that we are, across all markets, one of the market-leading solutions, and that's because of our laser focus on UI, UX. And I always know that, if you put in marketing spend as a B2B or even from our B2C perspective, that we'll get a nice conversion. But then what happens after that? So you've got them in, you've got them depositing. How do you maximize that opportunity, and how do you do it within the confines of the regulation? These are the questions that you need to answer, and you need to do it quickly, because the ROI in a regulated market is less than a .com. Everybody knows that. So yeah, these are the daily challenges. These are the things that we're trying to have foresight on, so that we can have them in place before we even go live. But sometimes it doesn't work like that, and you have to iterate and you have to work. So that's what I mean. Every day is a school day here.
Now, your words are really, let's say, touching me, if I can say this way, because every day is something new happened. And if you're talking about regulators and the regulation market, it's like you will never make any strategy for 2-3 years ahead, because something's going to happen for sure in 1 year. And you have to be flexible, really flexible to deal with that.
Exactly.
And but also I can say that you will agree with me that where the challenges laying, the reward is higher.
No, for sure. If there's a challenge there and you can overcome it, then the return is greater, for sure. It's like our sales guys. We literally had a sales meeting this morning, and they said, okay, 2025, what markets are we going to enter? I said, okay, what markets are you going to sell? so it's like a chicken and an egg situation.
Yeah.
Right? So we have a basis of a strategy about which markets we think might be worthwhile. Sure. Okay, but we need to be able to either operate there as a B2C operator, or we need to be able to offer the platform or Mega or any of our solutions from a B2B perspective. So you need to get proof of concept, and you need to run with that. And if there is an opportunity and you think it's right, then grab it with both hands.
I always say that sales managers should grab something from marketing teams about strategy, about experiments, not about strategies, because marketers, they used to make a lot of experiments, and when they find something which is working, they just try to push it. In sales, we have to do the same.
Agree. A/B testing for sales, right?
Yep, okay. For sure. As many as you can. Martin, one more question about your persona, which is, I can say also will be interesting for the audience. What strategies or habits you have inside yourself, which is helping you to maintain at the highest level in this game?
Okay, well, anybody that knows me will tell you that I'm a fairly level-headed guy. I don't change depending on who I'm talking to or the situation that I'm in. I'm very open. I speak to everybody. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. My wife might say that's a bad thing. It embarrasses her. We'll be in an airport and I'll speak to a random. But that's me. That's the way that I am. Everybody will tell you that. Again, it's probably just where I come from, that you kind of speak to everybody, and it's a small community, and you take that out into the world with you. When I lived in London, I used to speak to people on the tube, and people would be freaked out because in London you don't speak to people on the tube. But I did. I thought it was quite hilarious, to be honest. So I think being humble and keeping your feet on the ground is very important. But in the same token, I think that you need to establish a level, Ihor. And by level, I mean of output, of effort, of day-to-day. And if you maintain that level, okay, then you've already got a competitive advantage across the majority of your competitors. We have a mantra here that's kind of like the 10 Commandments that I wrote for the entire commercial team within SoftBet. And, if somebody's level does drop, we get the mantra out and we say, remember what we spoke about, this needs to be maintained and we need to maintain it at this level. So I have an expectation upon my team, and they all understand what that is. But I have it for myself as well. I think it's not, you're on the sea level and you put your feet up. You've got to be able to demonstrate to the team that you're willing to get your hands dirty as well.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, never been shy of that. You're never been shy of that. But yeah, being humble, having a good standard to work towards on a day-to-day basis. And you know what as well, everybody else, you've got to enjoy yourself. People get very serious about their work and their professionalism and their career. Listen, I think it's really important that you enjoy yourself. At gig, they used to say we should have fun, and I always thought that was a little bit, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't like, not fun, because that sounds ridiculous, right? But you got to enjoy yourself. If I'm working with somebody and I see them more on a day-to-day basis than I see my wife, if you're not having fun, then it's not enjoyable and it's not sustainable. So you've got to have a bit of fun as well. So all these serious things, keep your feet on the ground, be humble, have a standard, but you've got to have a laugh and enjoy your time with the people that you're working with. It's really important.
Of course, I do really, believe in the word that you have to have fun with your people, even if it's a work. And if someone just come to me and saying, after work, I'm thinking about work. During the night, I'm thinking about work. And they're not thinking about work in the way that the work is enjoyable for them, but the work to be done, just the task to be done. I say them, okay, just skip it for the evening, for 2 evenings. Think about family, think about hobby, think about something that really making, the life more enjoyable for you than job right now. And just try to change this paradigm in your life, because it's about burnout. Burnout is coming soon, really, really fast.
For sure. And you know what? I'm lucky enough to have a really solid family. My wife's been here with me for the whole time we've been in Malta, and I've got 3 boys. And they're older now. They're like 17, 15, 14. And you know what? Like when they were younger, it was a little bit tougher. I'll admit that, when you have to really look after them. But now that they are young adults, teenagers, you know what? Actually spending time with them is actually really, really enjoyable. You're seeing the young people that you're bringing into the world and what they're becoming. So it's important that you actually spend time doing that.
Of course.
Because if you miss that, then you're going to look back and you're going to regret it. So that, again, spending time with your family, with your friends, it's an important aspect for sure.
Yeah. We're social animals, so we have to do that,
Absolutely.
We touched a bit about your team. You talked about some of the mantra that you have in your team, but could you please share with us how do you motivate your team on a daily basis? I mean, you're having fun with them, it's okay, but if you're talking about jobs to be done or strategy to be completed or whatever in business flow, how do you motivate your people and how you communicate with them, which is, I can say, more important?
Okay, so I think it's really important, if you want a highly functioning team, that you allow them to do things the way that they believe it should be done. So we definitely have a very objective-driven sort of culture. Okay, so every individual understands exactly what's expected of them on a quarterly basis. So I'm quite lucky that the majority of things that I do are driven from a commercial perspective. So therefore, in terms of numbers, etc., it's much easier to define than, for example, a CTO from a tech perspective, right? So we define the numbers, and then it's the guys who need to sit down and figure out how they're going to reach that number. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't monitor performance. Of course we do. We look at numbers on a day-to-day basis, and I think it's really important that the guys come to me and they say, okay, today we've had this particular situation happen, this number has dropped or this has gone up, and here's what we're doing about it. I think you need to create a culture whereby people are solution-led and not reactionary and not simply doing what you tell them to do. They need to drive the business, because particularly from a commercial perspective, it's built on relationships, it's built on approach. It's not like, again, a technical issue where I can simply step in and fix it. I might not know the person, I might not understand the full dynamic. It's very different from that perspective. So I think enabling your team is probably one of the most important things. I think you need to have an open door. Okay, I think even the leaders within my team that have people working for them, I encourage them to have the ability for people to come to their desk and have a quick conversation with them. And you need to be able to do it relatively quickly. Sometimes if somebody has to sort something, it's time sensitive. So therefore, you need to be able to do it relatively quickly and give them the rope in order to be able to go and do that and fail. Do you know what, Ihor? This is a lot of people don't like hearing this, but actually, it's okay to fail. When I was a recruiter, I remember, right? So you might have an executive search with a big customer, and you would send them maybe 3 or 4 CVs, and they would like the 3 guys that had said, "Do you know what? I've done everything perfect in my career." And they'd be like, I want one of those 3. What about this other guy? Well, he went there and it didn't go so well and he failed. I actually think the guy that failed actually has more experience in order not to fail than the guys who haven't. So this is something I think in our teams, I think across the industry, across the globe, in every industry probably, there's this eagerness to portray success constantly, but actually failing's okay. And I think your team, if your team want to be truly comfortable, then they need to understand that that's okay. So I think that's really important as well.
Fails and challenges, I can say that they mostly equal, because if you're talking about experiments and finding something one which will work, how can you find this one if you will not fail with 10 things?
I agree. And it's how you react to it as well.
Of course.
I think that's a very, very important factor. Like, if you fail and then you do everything that you can in order to rectify the situation, then great. But if you fail and then you take a step back and you're reticent, that's when it becomes an issue. So it's about the reaction to it as well.
And the question for leader, how to grow a leader in your organization, just to make sure that they will not, frustrated or frightened by fails, but they will continue to make these experiments and, do it.
Yeah, the one thing that I see with the leadership below me and the constant conversations that I have with them are around difficult conversations. This is, for me, this is one of there's many aspects, but this is one of the key aspects of leadership that when people are coming through that maybe they lack. Okay, you need to be willing to have a difficult conversation, right? You might not be happy with the way that something's going and you need to rectify it. And yes, people might not be happy about your assessment of it, but if you feel strongly about it, you need to have that conversation. You need to do it in a respectful way. You need to do it well. You need to be backed up by numbers, but you need to have that difficult conversation. And if you don't have that difficult conversation, then it simply spirals and becomes more of a problem further down the line. So, so you're saying how do these how do you encourage these guys to go and fail? You encourage them and their teams to go and fail by having the difficult conversation and it not being a big deal, but simply by being part of the culture. Okay, what about this? What about that? Question things. Have you thought about this? Okay, I don't like that. You need to be able to have open conversations. I think, again, culturally, that maybe some businesses try to avoid these conversations, but I think actually the most successful companies are the ones that embrace them and really use them to their advantage. So I think that's a key aspect of leaders coming through and them feeling comfortable.
I see.
And by the way, that applies up the way as well as it does down the way.
Of course.
All right, so if they're not happy with something I'm doing, the door's open for them to tell me. There's no issue there.
My point of view, and I totally believe in that for 200%, that every person in the organization matters. I mean, they do something for this organization to be successful, and what they doing, it really matters.
I agree.
Doesn't matter what the job is. One of the latest questions is also about your persona and how you handle work-life balance. I don't believe in work-life balance when you enjoy time at home and during the work, but let's talk about that, because you attend a lot of events, you have a large team, you're working in a huge organization, but I also said that you have 3 boys, you have a wife, and you love your family. How you handle all of that? How you make it success?
Okay, well, first of all, you need to have a very understanding wife and family, okay? Because it can be tough. There's no question about it. I'm not saying it's an easy ride all the time, but what you do have to do is when you're there is you really have to make an effort. So, for example, two of my kids play football constantly. So if I'm in Malta, I'm always at their matches in order to encourage them and for them to understand that I care. I think that's really important. My older kid really likes the cinema. So when I'm here at the weekend, then I try to go to the cinema with him. So it's about making an effort. It's about, when it's your anniversary, actually doing something with your wife, not just buying a present. It's about engaging and really spending time with them when you can and making the most of it when you can. If you do that, then actually they look forward to it. I think sometimes some of the traps that people have fallen into is that they get so tired that it's really difficult to make an effort on the family side and there's no balance. So find that balance is the way that I would outline it. If you can do that and be proactive with the relationships, then you can do both for sure.
Proactive, it's a good word in relationship. I mean, what I find, because I have also not 3 kids, but 1 kid, and I can say they have a family. Time is not about quantity, it's about quality of spending this time with your family.
Absolutely, you're spot on.
Present gifts is okay, but it's nothing if you will just give it to them and go back to something else.
It's funny. It's the same with my dog. So I have a dog as well, right? And if I come home and don't do anything with him, he won't talk to me. But if I take him straight out for a walk, then everything's fine.
Same for my dog as well. Yeah, same. Even they understand how to spend time, quality time.
Exactly.
The last question, Martin, I have it for all of my guests here. And it's about quote or some sentence which change your life, or you're using it every day, or like talking to someone which can change something in them. But if you have something to share with the audience, please.
I know if all my team were sat here, I know exactly what they'd say. So I'll use that one, right?
Let's go.
So every single day, probably to every single person, I talk about controlling the controllable. Okay.
Could you repeat it one?
So controlling the controllable.
Okay.
So too often, I think in situations, there's aspects of scenarios that people can't control. Okay. And they get really stressed out because they can't control this. So in order to alleviate that stress, what I'm saying is that, listen, you can only control what you can control. Okay. So control that element, okay, as best you can. And then the other things will happen the way that they have to happen. All right. And it is a mechanism in order to alleviate a situation and alleviate some stress, but it's also the reality of the situation as well, Right? So there's certain things that you're in control of, there's certain things that there aren't. Just accept it and move on. Otherwise, you will end up burning out. And I think that's something. Just give up on the things that you can't control and move on. If you stress yourself out about it, you won't sleep at night, you're going to have issues. So this is the message that I send to the team constantly. Control the controllable.
Awesome. Sounds awesome. Like a part of Stoicism mindset. You can control only which is controllable, like you said. That's right.
Absolutely. It is quite stoic. You're right.
Great, Martin. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for sharing some insight. Thank you for sharing some information about yourself and about your insight, what you have inside. And it was really a pleasure for me to have you here in our podcast.
No, pleasure was all mine, Ihor. Thanks for having me. All the best.
All the best, Martin.
Cheers.